Guys, I really tried, okay? I was trying to film a nice professional video for you guys, and I filmed 30 minutes of this review with the sun in my damn eyes, and I had to throw it all out. I really tried not to be in my pajamas. I really did. I'm just gonna rename this channel Renae Writes in Her PJs, because that's every video is in my damn pajamas. If you saw the title of this video, you know that I'm going to be reviewing Evelyn's Number, which is a book by Bethany Atazadeh. First disclaimer, I do know Bethany. I'm actually a beta reader like Keeper. Just because I like the author themselves doesn't mean that I'm not going to be 100% honest about my feelings on the book. This is a YA dystopian. I am not personally a dystopian fan. I actually don't like the Hunger Games. Bye! I know, I don't, and I'm sorry about it. The Handmaid's Tale, Divergent, Maze Runner, all that stuff, don't care about it. The only dystopian books I do like are 1984, The Giver. I know, I'm so fucking cultured. Just like with Keeper, I'm gonna do a short, spoiler-free synopsis for you. I will tell you when it's over, so that if your dumbass for some reason hasn't read Evelyn's Number yet, you can do so without being spoiled. Why haven't you read it yet? Seriously. Seriously. Why? Okay, Evelyn's Number. We follow this girl named Evelyn Van Der Earth, which is a very fancy name because she comes from a very fancy family. Her father's name's Byron, and he works in the governmental sect of Eden, which is the place they live. And in Eden, everyone is assigned a number 1 through 30. It is assigned divinely from God, and your number determines your place in the world. So he runs everything. He's called the number one. He's like the only number one. And then the lower you are, the less rights you have. And everyone's sort of color-coded. It's like 1 through 6, they wear blue. Number 10s, who are like, they're called the regulators. They're like the police. They wear black. 12s are the clergy, and they wear white. And then almost bottom wear gray, and bottom wears brown. And when you're a bottom, you know, near the bottom, you can't hide your tattoo or anything. When you get numbered, you get a tattoo on your neck so that everyone knows what your number is. And you can hide it if you're high, but you can't hide it if you're low, because everybody needs to know that you're low so they can treat you like crap. So basically, we meet Evelyn on like the eve of her numbering ceremony, which happens when you're 13. When I first opened this book, I was like, damn, this is really YA. Like, this is a 13-year-old, but we age up, it's fine. She's got in this blue scarf that she's gonna get to start wearing once she gets her number, because she's gonna be in the blues because her family's high and her dad works for the government, and of course she's gonna be a high number. And everyone's at her numbering ceremony and they're like, oh my god, we can't wait to see, like, you're gonna be a high number, we're so excited for you, welcome to like being a grown-up basically. And we get to hear the whole backstory of Eden and how God hands down these numbers, and the number system works if everyone knows their place, and it's only when people step out of the number system that things start to go wrong. All the typical dystopian propaganda, it only works if you obey type of bullshit. So Evelyn goes back to get her tattoo, and she is not a high number. She is a 29. Now for the spoilery section. So Evelyn gets numbered, and she's 29. And so now her dad can't act like her dad anymore. Her dad's now her boss. She's gonna get to stay at her home, but as a servant now. So she says goodbye to all of her high society things. She has to move down into the servants' quarters, and one of their servants, the head servant, is an informant. She actually informed on her own family to the regulators for not following the number system and for being disobedient, basically, to number one. And so the whole house is terrified of this woman. She treats Evelyn like dog shit because Evelyn used to be way higher than her, and now she's below her. The dad is kind of too afraid to do anything about it because she's an informant and she informed on her own family. Why wouldn't she inform on him? At that point, we leave Evelyn for a little bit and we switch perspectives and we go to Jeremiah Bloom. And Jeremiah Bloom's parents led the Bloom Rebellion, so he was orphaned at a young age. Jeremiah ends up in an orphanage where he is adopted by a higher numbered woman named Lady Beryl. And at first, Jeremiah thinks that he is just gonna be like a slave to this woman, so he tries to run away. Slowly but surely, she earns his trust, and he realizes that she's one of those high numbers that actually rejects the number system. She belongs to a sect of people who don't believe the propaganda that only the clergy, only the designated number 12s can speak to God. They believe that they can speak to God on their own, that they can read their Bibles and pray on their own. They don't need anyone to do it for them on their behalf, which is against the law in Eden. So they have a secret underground church that they go to, which sort of becomes the headquarters of this revolution that's starting to brew up once again. They have a member who works very closely with number 1, and he basically writes up this fake work law that says, you know, if you're a low number, you've got to get on these ships and you've got to come work. So this is all a bullshit law that basically allows these people to all get on this ship, and there's a place called Hoffen where there is no number system, and they're given the opportunity to kind of start over. So we age forward a little bit. It's 5 years later. Evelyn's 18 years old. She has just been living this life of misery working in her father's house. She has a friend who lives on the property. Her name is Kevra, and her and Kevra are each other's only confidant. Kevra is being abused at her job, so she is ready to completely just escape Eden altogether. And Evelyn is very hesitant to do so until she gets the shit beat out of her by the head servant woman. And when this happens to her, all the while there are also propaganda flyers being put in their milk deliveries, kind of saying like, aren't you tired of the number system? We should rise up. Like, we should stop this. This isn't right. Like, and so Evelyn finally goes to Kevra and is like, let's leave. So they decide they're going to steal Evelyn's father's girlfriend, whose name is Ruby. They're going to steal her ID. So Ruby's got this short, dark hair. Evelyn cuts all her hair off, steals a bunch of Ruby's clothes, steals one of her dad's cars, and goes and gets Kevra. And Kevra, who has this beautiful flaming red hair, comes out of her house with short brown hair. And Evelyn's like, what the fuck? And Kevra's like, well, you know, there's only one ID. We might both have to use it at some point. And also, you know, when they look for us, they're going to look for a redhead and a brunette. And now it's 2 brunettes. So, like, we're going to be safer if I just dye my hair. And Evelyn's like, okay. And I'm like, not okay. This is very weird. Like, they made a big deal out of it. And then Evelyn just didn't care. And I was like, I don't trust Kevra now. Every time they stop at a checkpoint, one of them has to get in the trunk. At some point, Kevra just keeps driving with Evelyn in the trunk. And Evelyn's like, I'm gonna die in here. And then eventually Kevra lets her out and she's like, sorry, I just wanted to make sure we were far enough away from the checkpoint that the regulators didn't see us, blah, blah, blah. And Evelyn's like, I literally almost died in there. And Kevra's like, sorry, I don't know. Plan was to get on a ship and get out of Eden. And they are all the way at the port city, and they have a couple hours where they're gonna be able to get on a ship. And Kevra's like, let's go into this warehouse, like it's deserted and we can like sleep here for a little while or whatever. She gets knocked the hell out. She wakes up tied to a chair, bleeding from her head because of fucking Kevra. Kevra was like, hey, so I realized that when we get on the ship, they're gonna check the ID and there's only one of us, and like, I need to get the hell out of here because I'm being raped by my boss. So like, sorry, I'm leaving and I'm leaving you here. We also age forward with Jeremiah. So Jeremiah at this point is slowly, you know, he's getting people over to Hoffen. He's getting this rebellion built up. He is on his way over to the port, and he stops in at this abandoned warehouse where him and his friend Luke leave notes and supplies and things like that. And he finds Evelyn, this woman dressed in high-numbered clothing, and he sees her number while he's getting her free of her restraints, and he sees that she's a low number dressed in high number clothing. So when she wakes up, she's like, I have to pretend I'm a high number, he's gonna report me. So he's like, what were you trying to do? And she was like, oh, I was trying to get on the ship, but I got robbed of my ID. Like, oh no. And he's like, well, you can just get on my ship, it's no big deal. And so she thinks that he thinks that she's a high number, and she thinks that he is a high number. So he gets her on the ship. She ends up with all these gray and brown wearing people on the ship. She meets Luke, who's the first mate, and Jeremiah is actually the captain of this ship, which is actually a submarine. And they're going out to Hoffen. Jeremiah kind of makes the announcement, you're not here to work. You're here to be refugees on Hoffen. We are trying to smuggle as many low number people out of Eden as we can. Because we're trying to build an army for our revolution to completely overthrow Eden's government and to take number one out of power. And of course, lower numbers are like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And everyone's like, oh my God, like, I just want to leave. Like, I don't care about this. So she meets this girl from Hoffen who's on the ship named Olive, and Olive is from an unnumbered society. She doesn't have a tattoo. She's from Hoffen. She was born on Hoffen, which is rare. Babies aren't really born there anymore, which is another reason that Hoffen's excited for the refugees to kind of have new, fresh blood. So when they finally reach Hoffen, they set up this refugee camp. Olive's grandma's actually one of the council members of the revolution, like trying to help the people coming from Eden to make lives in Hoffen and to prepare to like go back for the revolution if that's what they want to do. All the while, you know, Jeremiah, because he found Evelyn, who tells everyone her name is Evie, so I'll refer to her as Evie from this point forward. They're kind of falling for each other. You should come back with us to Eden so we can broadcast your testimony to everyone in Eden so they can understand like how this number system tears families apart and how unfair it is. But Evie's like, I just want a new life. Like, I don't want to ever go back to Eden. I don't want to ever, I'm afraid. She's so like beat down from this low number life that she just like can't even imagine. She's so shy and like reserved and just expects to like be berated. And just the way that Bethany expresses like the mannerisms of an abused person and how their every thought is consumed with the idea of like, just don't do anything to get that kind of treatment. Just so heartbreaking the whole time. You just feel so bad for Evie because you're just like, underneath, like, she's clearly a very strong woman, but she's just been so beaten down by 5 years of abuse. Still like can't grasp the fact that like she's out of that situation. So she's like, I'm gonna go to Eden. I'll go back and do the revolution with you guys. And she goes to Jeremiah's council tent to tell him this, and she overhears him and Luke talking, and Luke says that Jeremiah is a 28. And Evie is really hurt, and she just felt really betrayed, so she runs all the way to Olive's family's farm and is like, I'm not going to Eden, like, forget him. And then Olive and the grandma kind of talk some sense into her, and they're like, listen, you were scared enough. How do you think he felt being the captain and the leader? If people found out he was a 28, like, they would not respect him. Like, shit, you're right. I guess I'm gonna go to Eden. And Jeremiah's already left with the first ship. Luke is still there, and he's like, hey, Jeremiah gave you this note. And he was like, okay. So the note says, I know you probably heard that I'm a 28, and like, I should have told you, and I'm so sorry. It's just a really sweet note. And so Evie's like, I'm going, you know, I want to go. And Olive's like, I want to go too. And Luke's like, no, your grandma would kill us if we took you. Like, you're not going. You're a Hoffen, like, you're the Hoffen miracle baby because they don't have babies on the island. You got to stay here. So Olive's like, fine, but can I help you load up the ship? And Luke's like, fine, take this box. And Olive's like, psych, I'm stowing away. So her and Evie stow away. Luke's like, what the fuck, guys? Too late to turn around. They get to Eden, and Luke's like, stay your dumbasses on this ship while we go do this thing. So this is like the most intense thing I've ever read. Like, it was so brilliantly written that I was just like on the edge of my seat the whole time. And it's basically where Jeremiah's fleet takes the news station, the regulators show up, they're using their cars as shields. Jeremiah gets shot multiple times. He actually get into the news center, and they're all like, all right, call everything off, like, bring all the fleets over to this news center because the regulators are kicking our asses. We got to get this broadcast set up. But Jeremiah's been shot deep in his shoulder at this point. Like, he's bleeding out. He's passing out everywhere. He's basically like, I'm about to die. Let me tell someone what the plan is because I'm not going to make it. On the submarine, and Olive sticks her dumbass head out to look at what's going on, and they get spotted by regulators. So these regulators put them on a boat, take them to jail. The guy who's watching them, his name is Chase Solomon. They call him Saul. And Olive's got, like, in the process of getting roughed up by these regulators, she gets a really bad injury to her head. And Saul sees that she's like bleeding out everywhere in the cell. He brings her water. He like wraps her up and stuff. And Olive's just kind of talking to him. And she was like, I can just tell that you don't want to be a regulator, right? And basically it's that parallel of like nobody gets to choose their numbers. So like even people who get like a good deal, like a regulator, he doesn't want to do that. Like, he doesn't want to have to hurt people and things like that. And it's very clear from the minute you meet him that he's a lot more compassionate than his regulator persona would allow him to be. So when all the regulators leave and it's just him and the girls, you see that he's extremely unhappy in his lot in life. And he smuggles the girls out of jail. Takes them to the news station. He's immediately met with vitriol and like, what the hell is this regulator doing here? And Olive's like, guys, like, he saved our lives. Can you stop being assholes? And we all get up to the newsroom where the broadcasts are going on, and Olive does her broadcast, and she's all like bleeding, and it's very dramatic. And then Evie's like, I'm doing my broadcast. Like, I'm doing this. So she gets up and she tells everyone what happened to her. And everyone in the newsroom is crying, and it's like so intense and just so beautiful. And Jeremiah's watching from like a different room. It's being broadcast on his TV. He's like hiding away because he doesn't want everyone to know how hurt he is. Right after Evie's broadcast goes out, mobs of people start just taking out the regulators. Number one is overthrown. People are pissed and they are fighting back, and the revolution is on, and it is won like instantly. Like everyone after they hear Evie's story is like, fuck this, like, this is not right, we're done with this. There's been multiple conversations during council meetings and things where Luke and a lot of the other council members have basically said, once this number one is overthrown, we're gonna need a new leader. Jeremiah, we want you to be our new number one. And Jeremiah says, no, I want there to be a democracy. So Jeremiah realizes in this success that he's going to be expected to lead the country. He thinks if he takes himself out of the equation, that they will be more inclined to do a council system because they won't have their natural born leader there. So we get this beautiful triumphant moment. Evie's like, where's Jeremiah? And everyone's like, oh, he's injured, let's go see him. And he's not there. One of the main aspects of this book that I really loved was the constant return to God and to faith. It's really interesting to kind of see this spin, and I do this in my own writing too, where I have a organization that uses God for their own personal benefit, and then I have characters who actually have relationships with God. And it's always really interesting to do that parallel of like, when you use God for your own personal agenda, how that varies from a true believer of like godly word, and not just necessarily Christianity, although this book focuses on like a Christian God because it focuses on biblical things. Just when you have faith versus when you use faith propaganda for your own agenda, the differences in those things, and how you can trick people into thinking that you're a spiritual or religious person, and by default a good person. Like I said, dystopian's hard for me because I always feel like there's a lot of time just sat like plotting around, like planning and talking and expositioning. Between the submarine and the camp and then the submarine again, I was just like, I'm so sick of hearing about Evie waking up. Like, it was just a lot of the day-by-day things that were going on, which there's not really a whole lot of other ways to do that, to show the passage of time. So it was unavoidable, but it was just something that I kind of plotted through sometimes. Jeremiah and Evie have a fantastically written relationship. It is such a great will they, won't they build. And I'll tell you right now, if you didn't realize this, they don't kiss once! They don't kiss! That's some damn good writing, because I'm tearing up the sequel as fast as I can get my hands on it because I want to see them kiss. Honestly, I would give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's my favorite dystopian novel. It is extremely well written. It's very original. It's such an interesting take on an overdone trope, in my opinion, of like, your class is this because you have this thing. He's just got such a knack for writing realistic characters. So rare to see characters written in a way that's like them as complex without being like completely out of character. Bethany just knew these characters so inside and out that she was able to show like their complex emotions without changing who they were fundamentally. I loved it. I can't recommend it highly enough. Bethany is gonna be like one of those writers that just blow it out of the water. You don't know her name, you're gonna know her name. I didn't even get into biograding. They like never age because they can just do this biograding thing. It's like Botox on steroids, and you just... My phone died, which is the second surefire sign that I should wrap this video up. Really hope you guys enjoyed my review of Evelyn's Number. Again, I love this book go get it. It's fantastic, and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you like these kind of videos. I post videos every Saturday, and I'll see you guys next Saturday. Bye.